Even after 2 straight years of headlines that, even as I'm writing the story or reading the story, I'm looking at them and going, ugh, that's weird. We're still looking at weird ones coming out of Europe. It's this intellectual versus emotional lag for me. Intellectually, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, I concluded myself that Putin was not kidding, that he was going to go for it. Emotionally, the idea that Russia is invading Ukraine is still kind of something I'm processing in a way. I don't have any direct personal exposure to Ukraine. I know Ukrainian Canadians; they're as nice as any other Canadian. The issue, to me, is not specifically what's happening in Ukraine, but what this is going to mean for the global political order and specifically Canada, because we are phenomenally unprepared for a nastier world. Canada, more so, I think, than many of the countries in the West who have different geopolitical environments, threw ourselves into the myth after 1991 that history was over, that that history had ended, that liberal democracy had triumphed forever, and that we never had to worry about it again, and that it was safe to completely, effectively disarm ourselves and then pile all that money into various vote winnings, social programs, or tax cuts, depending on what your partisan stripe is here. It's not just that we've lost a lot of military capability, though. We have, but it's not just that. It is also that we have, in this country, with honorable exceptions aside, very little accumulated brain trust. We do not have a high civic literacy on defense and military related matters. We don't have a sort of an active uh, component of our partisan political system where each party has its own experts on foreign policy and national defense, and then between them can hammer out positions, again, within the partisan sphere, of, on the one hand, what there is room to legitimately disagree on, and on the other hand, what should be sort of unifying national priorities that all parties can agree on, a common set of defense and foreign policy assumptions. We don't have that. Again, there are honorable exceptions. We have some academics in this country that have done really good work studying these issues and kind of keeping the torch lit of this kind of knowledge. We have a few politicians, and they're scattered across maybe two of the parties, that actually have some genuine insight into defense, security, intelligence, and foreign affairs issues. But the general public, we have just never thought about it. The overriding assumption, and really for an entire generation now, has been nothing to worry about, nothing will ever go wrong, and if something ever goes wrong, the Americans will protect us anyway. I think we now have pretty good evidence that neither of those assumptions are true. And are we ready to deal with this? One of the problems in this situation that I've said before is this is not a problem that we can vote ourselves out of. You cannot go, wow, Justin Trudeau has really made a mess of this, and that's why we'll pivot and elect Jagmeet Singh or conservative to be determined. You can pick, you as individuals, voters, you can pick whatever party you want to vote for. If you're watching a National Post video, I have a pretty good sense of which party that might be. But the problem is, even though that might be a party that you would agree with, you're a conservative voter, probably most of you. You might say the conservatives have way better policies than the liberals on X, Y, and Z. I can't stand the NDP position on this. The problem is, if you are like me, someone who is one of those weirdo Canadians who's almost first and foremost a public order, national security voter, who do you park your vote with? The liberals have not been great on the military over the last 7 years, and that's a massive understatement. But guess what? The conservatives weren't good before them. And then the liberals weren't good before them. And the conservatives, the progressive conservatives at the time, weren't good before that. The world is turning nastier, or perhaps Canadians are just being forced to confront how nasty the world has always been. And we were just spoiled and rich and happy enough that we didn't have to pay attention to it. Reality is catching up with us. Our primary ally and benefactor is increasingly impatient with deadbeats in the alliance. They didn't even send us PPE during the pandemic. Guess what? Because they did what any country would do. The Americans put themselves first, and they were not wrong to do it. Every country has to look after its own internal and external security. We can do it as part of alliances, but alliances are about burden sharing, not about burden zeroing out. We have spent generations not taking this stuff seriously, and it might take us longer to get our heads back in the game, even if we try, than we have time to do it. Over in Ukraine right now, they don't have time. They're fighting with whatever they have. Canada, we've got some time to fix the bad mistakes, to correct the broken systems, to shore up our weak institutions, and to hopefully make sure that if there is ever an emergency like that or some other kind in either this country or any of our allies, that we are ready for it. But today, we are not ready for it. We're not ready militarily, we're not ready economically, we're not ready societally, and we are sure as hell not ready politically.